Ballroom. Keith Roth with my co-host, Danny Solazzi from The Characters. So when you moved out to L.A. initially, Rodney started playing the stuff, were you thinking, well, we're going to get a record deal out there?
Oh, yeah. Well, we had flown out in 87 to record with Chip Douglas, who produced The Turtles.
Flo and Eddie.
Linda Ronstadt's first album.
Right.
2 Monkees albums, Daydream Believer, the hit single Daydream Believer, and Pleasant Valley Sunday. He was in The Turtles for Happy Together, played bass on that.
Right.
And then he produced Eleanor, which was a huge hit for The Turtles, and
Right.
You Showed Me for The Turtles. And because of this Monkees connection, we had sent him our stuff, and he really liked our stuff. And so we flew out to Hawaii, and we recorded this album, which eventually became called The Early Character.
It's basically a compilation of everything.
It's a compilation of our early stuff that was not...
Well, even that 1982 demo.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is great stuff. And then, you got live performances with Peter Tork on there and Mickey Dolenz. I mean, you really covered the whole gamut.
Yeah. And
you didn't get Nesmith, though, right?
We never met him, actually.
Well, he was full on into the Repo Man and making movies. And,
we just never...
Fish Heads. That was Mike who wrote that song, right?
No, I think that's Barnes and Barnes.
Oh, that's right. But he wrote
Billy Mummy from Lost in Space is in that.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to pull nostalgia with you. I mean, so everything's all culminating.
Yeah, and then one night, Joan Jett is the in-studio guest on Rodney's show.
She was a regular. She was like the Ramones on Uncle Floyd.
Yeah, exactly. And Kenny Laguna and Joan were the in-studio guest, and Rodney plays Marianne. And so
the early version, obviously.
Yeah, the 19. I'm not sure if it was the 85 version or the one that Chip Douglas produced, but one of those two. And Kenny, because we had sent him the 85 version back in 85, and we sent it to Blackheart Records. Kenny really loved it. I mean, he really loved the song, and so he contacted me. And I tried to call back to say, yes, we want to be on Blackheart Records. We want to do all these things.
And you're a big Joan Jett fan, too.
Huge Joan Jett fan. We call him back, and I can never get through to the guy because there's always, whenever I would call, he wasn't there or he was in a meeting or whatever it was. I think
it's that kid that wants me to sign his band.
Yeah, I think the secretary was just,
It's that Danny guy again. Yeah. It's like a Mary Tyler Moore episode.
I couldn't tell if I was being blocked or if he was actually, he probably wasn't there. So anyway, then he hears the song on K-Rock, and he's like, I love this song. I love these guys. I tried to get a hold of him and stuff like that. So Rodney tells me, call Kenny Laguna. He really likes you guys. Meet up with him. We meet up with him. We're living in Los Angeles at this point.
And they're based in New York.
And I said to Kenny, look, if you'll manage us, we'll move back to New Jersey in a second because we moved out here because Rodney was playing us. But if we had a real manager and Joan Jett's manager, that was the approach we liked.
And being a musician, too. I mean, playing with Tommy James and Shondells. When he's been on the show, he told me stories I was like, I couldn't believe the Darlene Love stuff. I mean, this guy's been...
Me and Kenny go all the way back to the Isle of Rock and Roll video. I'm in the Isle of Rock and Roll video in 1982.
Really?
Yeah.
Where was that filmed at?
A place called Privates on the Upper East Side in Manhattan.
Okay.
I think Steve Lieber owned that. Steve Lieber and Lieber Krebs, I think they owned that place for a little while. A friend of mine was Ron Akiyama as a rock photographer. Yeah, he took the cover shot.
I just met him through Punky Meadows.
Right.
Because I'm doing something with Punky now, and Ron is a huge Punky fan. Super nice guy.
Oh, he's the best. He took the cover shot of the Blackheart record one. And so anyway, he told me about about the video shoot, and we went together because I was friends with him, and I was actually working for him. We would go to shows together, and I would be his assistant on some of the gigs as a photographer. He was a photographer, and so we went to the Isle of Rock and Roll video shoot, and there's a lot of downtime, and so I'm like going up to Kenny and I'm asking him all these questions about all the '60s stuff that he did, like Green Tambourine and 1, 2, 3 Red Light by 1910 Fruit Gum.
Right.
And I'm asking him all these questions about all that stuff, and
he worked with the Ohio Express too, right?
Yeah, he was in all that bubblegum stuff. They were all it was kind of like it was just a bunch of musicians, then they called it different stuff.
Right. They put it's almost like the Archies. Or whatever,
so, and I would also always he says, he makes this joke. He says, Danny, when he was like a kid, used to be able to find his way backstage all the time, like past the cops and everything. And I was. I mean, I'd be with Ronnie and stuff, and, so I was around them a lot, but it just... So when he heard Marianne on the air, we decided, look, we want to be with this management company, and we moved back to New Jersey, and then we started getting the opportunity to open up for her, all over the place.
I remember we did a bill with you guys. It was at Birch Hill.
Oh, is that right?
It was a band that I was in at that point called Bad Biscuit.
Okay.
And it was you guys and Joan. It was great. And I got to meet Kenny and Joan for the first time that night afterwards. I guess they handpicked us because we were playing there all the time, and I guess the promoters said these.
I didn't even realize that.
It was probably '96.
We did it twice. I can't remember.
It was the first one, I would think. Yeah, it was jam packed. You couldn't shove another person.
Is that the night Kenny got up and did The Wanderer with us? Because there's a video of that floating around somewhere.
It wasn't. So it was. I would have remembered that. I remembered that. But I remember it was like probably in January of '96. You do so many, you forget. But I was a big Runaways fan, and I loved Joan. Always loved Joan.
Yeah.
Joan. So to get an opportunity, you get a little giddy when you when you do this, you get to open up for a lot of nationals. So Joan was really it was a great time. But I remember you guys being very entertaining. I really enjoyed. You guys
thanks,
a lot.
man. I appreciate that.
So then you got to open up for Joan many times, and now you're part of the Blackheart record family, right?
Well, then I also needed a job, so I said to Kenny, "Is there anything I could do at the office?" And they hired me, and then I went from just driving the car around and doing stuff like that to like actually when the albums came out on CD finally. I wrote the liner notes.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, me and Kenny went over. We decided like the bonus tracks and archival photos, and I was big on putting like the picture sleeves in and all the different things from the period.
And you being fanatical, I could see that you would definitely match the timelines.
Yeah,
which fans are really, really anal about.
My big thing was like I kind of took the Rhino Records approach to it, how they did the stuff with the Monkees and all that other stuff, which was you want the original album, you want any B-sides that were on the singles that weren't on the album but came from those sessions, and then you want any outtakes.
Right.
And then if you can throw some live cuts in too, that's cool too.
From that time.
Yeah, and that's what we did, and it was great. I mean,
that was kind of a new thing. Like, it was almost innovative in a sense, because besides Rhino doing it, but you're doing it in a whole different way, obviously influenced by it, but also taking it up a few steps. Yeah,
it was great. I mean, we would, it was so cool to go through the archives and find all this stuff. I remember when 1979, I think actually Blackheart is putting it out on Record Store Day or something, or one of those things that they do, coming up, yeah. And what it is I said to Kenny, there was some, when Joan and Kenny first met in 1979, they did these sessions, and I found the tape in the vault, and I said to him, do you remember any of this stuff? And he said, of course he remembered it, but it was all their very first things that they ever did together.
Steve Jones?
No, that was in Steve Jones, I think, and Paul Cook were pre this tape. This was done for the movie, and so they had recorded about 7 songs, and I think like You Don't Know What You Got. Actually, they did some overdubs, and that wound up on the first album.
Right.
There's a B-side called What Can I Do For You? Mm-hmm. That was,
I've had that on a bootleg.
Yeah, that was the B-side of like one of the songs from Up Your Alley, but it really came from those sessions.
Wow.
And I said people would love to hear this, and so we mastered it. We picked out a name for it, calling it 1979 Cover Shot, and it was awesome to do that kind of stuff. I also did another one that was called Cherry Bomb, that was just a fan club release.
Was it a CD single?
It was a CD.
I have that.
5 or 6 cut CD.
She's
single.
got like the headband on.
Yeah.
Right. She's got like a real classic '70s kind of like gym outfit.
Yeah, and it was intended for like I said, I was big on special things for the fan club. In other words, same thing with the characters. The characters did 5 years of Christmas cassettes for our fans, which we had gotten off the Beatles. The Beatles did these Christmas messages on flexi discs back in the 60s.
Right.
And we were going to do that, and then we found out the flexi discs were too expensive.
Yeah.
So we did it on cassette. But the cool thing about doing the cassette thing is we were able to make them longer. We made them, they were all 15 minutes long, and we did a couple songs on them and skits, and people love them. Even to this day, people still listen to them. We compiled them.
They digitized them at this point.
Yeah, we digitized them. Yeah, we put them all on one big CD, and
that'd be cool to put out around Christmas time on your character's website.
Yeah.
Like, hey, here it is on one disc.
Well, actually, bringing it back to the Kenny Laguna thing, we actually recorded a song called "Home for Christmas," which Kenny put out.
Laguna tunes.
Yeah, and that was a 45 that I used to see at his house. I think it was on Sire or something from the 79 or something like that. He put it out as a single. Yeah, and then he eventually put it on Laguna Tunes, which is kind of the early characters.
Laguna Tunes was definitely a very cool compilation. Keith Roth, hang with my buddy Danny Solazzi from The Characters, and we're going to do something from that Characters record that came out on Blackheart. We got to play Marianne.
So tan, she got big brown eyes and long
got every Beatle record at home. Every Beatle record. We didn't get to see him. What kind of police protection?